What is up, Soul Fam? It's your boy Kris with Soul of Life. Come on in. Alright, what is up, Soul Fam? It's your boy Kris with Soldier of Life, and today we're gonna be doing a tour of my expensive / cheap / do-it-yourself / German basement YouTube studio. Now for me, this is very special because a lot of these elements and stuff that I have here, it took me years to put this stuff together. You know, it's one thing when you're building a studio and you have the money to do that. It's another thing when you have to build all those elements over time and you find out really what your style is, what you can afford, and what looks good, was ist schön machen, what is nice and fits to your style. So first of all, I'm going to take you guys over a little bit of the background and the layout. So here in this room, it's about a 2 meter by 4 meter, I guess, space. It's a kind of pretty small space, but the one thing about this is that I feel you should always try to make the best that you can with what you have. So with this space, although it's a little bit cramped and stuff here like that, we use a lot of elements in here to make it seem a lot bigger than what it was. So the first thing you would notice is all these magazines along the wall. Now I am not the first person to do this. I actually got this idea from a couple of other YouTubers. One of the big ones that I did get that from is D4 Darius. He has a wall that is similar like this, and at the time when I put these up, I couldn't really buy a bunch of magazines. They're expensive now. So I just took some free magazine stuffs from the stores that were close and around, and I just used that. And that's what I mean by using elements with the things that you have. One thing that I want to incorporate soon is I want to start filling up the wall with a lot of the Twitter and Instagram quotes that inspire me, quotes of other people that inspire me. So this would be like the inspiration / creator wall of other creators. Next here you will see that I have a couch for sitting my arch in, and one thing about my space is that I really wanted a couch to have that presence of comfortability. So for the CPU and monitor setup, my CPU is just an i5 processor. I think it was one of the best budget deals that I ever got for a computer. It's just a nice little budget PC. It looks really nice, but for me, I'm most proud of my monitor setup. Now here I have a dual pair of HP 22-inch monitors, and also I have on the side a 19-inch Philips monitor. But for me, once having this setup, I cannot go back to anything else. The reason that I say this is because for a person that is editing constantly, that is doing multiple projects, multiple things, it is so good to have all of this real estate for yourself. Now I have here the dual monitors set up in the front. Let's say editing a Premiere video, or if I'm using After Effects to create graphics or whatever the case is, I want to be able to extend the range but still have the same color profile on both monitors. Now the last monitor is a different brand. Very small color differences in it, but it's essential to be able to do multiple things at a time, especially since I'm trying to make videos and vlogs every single day. It's very important to have all this real estate. So for my camera gear, the cameras that I use right now, I am filming on Lumix G7. This camera was one of the first big cameras that I bought because of the ability to film in 4K and to be able to do 60p 1080. Now nowadays that's kind of slow and lagging, but I still think this is a very good vlogging camera. So this is why I currently use this strictly for vlogs. So the other cameras that I have here, I have one of the first DSLRs that I've ever bought. This is a Canon T2i, and this here is my streaming and going live camera, and then I use my condenser microphone for sound when I'm streaming or when I'm going live or whatever it is. And lastly, my main camera that I shoot with when doing projects and stuff is the Blackmagic 4K. Now when I first bought this camera, there was a lot of stipulation about it, and there were a lot of new cameras coming out, but for me at the time, I wanted a camera that was a cinema camera. I wanted to get really heavy into filmmaking and not so much into the DSLR stuff. Now DSLR stuff is still cool. I'm gonna always buy cameras like this because they have everything. They can do the best of both worlds, but I wanted to invest in something that would force me to get into filmmaking. So now it's time for the accessories. So for me, the accessories that I feel are tools that you don't think are really big tools that you have to have, but when you do have them, it just makes your project and your working so much easier. So one of the biggest things that I would say for accessories is that you don't have to have it, but it's 100% like, you know, you can see it bouncing right here. This is the light. This is my lighting setup. Now usually I use this lighting setup, wow, it's really bright, but usually all it is one of the ring lights. This is a big light. Usually I have it fixed right here, but I can take it off the little custom stand that I have it on right here and put it on the original stand that it came with, and I can move it around the studio if I needed to, but usually I just have it right here. Another one of my accessories are my DJI Ronin SC. Now for me, this gimbal has been great and bad at the same time. It's really good at what it does. It's able to handle very heavy loads. Like heavy loads, I personally don't use super huge cameras, but it's able to help handle my Magic Pro, but it's able to handle my Blackmagic pocket camera with no problems at all. One of the cool things that I have now is this personally made, what are those things called? Helmet, first person cams. Now I originally made this setup just so I can make the first person movie that I made. It was very cool movie. I had a blast making it. You should check that out in the cards up top. But the camera that I had at the time wasn't the best. I mean, it's the vlogging camera that I'm using now, but if I can put my new camera up there, it would look so much more crispy. So I'm ready to use that again. I'm very excited to use that again, but that is a top accessory for mine when I'm ready to do those type of videos again. So for sound here, it's just a simple setup for me. We have here a pair of the Amazon USB surround sound speakers. They're really good, actually. They get pretty damn loud. Like, they really get pretty loud. I would never put them higher than, you know, I need to go, and the sound quality is actually really good. I don't want to promote Amazon products because, you know, I'm not an affiliate or anything, but it's really good. It's well worth the money. I think it was like 30 euro or something. Very well worth the money. It sounds so good. Also, for my vlog camera setup and my main setup on the Blackmagic pocket camera, I have just a pair of Moya, a pair of Moya bullet. They look like little bullet thingies. Just a pair of these. You know, I forget, I think they were like 15 or 20 euro when I got them. And lastly, I have here is this condenser. I have a condenser microphone. Now it's an older version. I forgot who it was made by. I think it was like a V something. I don't know. But I have this XLR microphone. At the time when I bought it, I think it was like $60 or something like that. But it is absolutely clutch. It is so well worth the money to get a nice condenser microphone, and I'm glad I already had this when I used to make music. Also, I have here like this little preamp that I use to mess with the levels, the gains, and, you know, the sound of my headphones. And for me, this is also really good. This is the perfect thing that I use for my reaction videos on my other channel. It's such a good setup. It just sounds so good. You gotta get a condenser microphone, but I had one since, you know, way back when. Now, as for the DIY elements in here, I believe there is a good amount, but for me, just for the sake of this video, I think I'll point out about 4 of them, from like important to like least important or whatever. So for me, the first one to point out is the laptop stand thingy, or the monitor stand. Now right here with this stand, I literally just used some used wood and I added 2x4s and I put them under the wood that I already had, and it kind of matches the complexion or the same, you know, color of the table that I had already. I literally just put those under there, hit them with the hot glue, and then it made like a little stand that elevates the monitors. This way the monitors are not directly on the table, and it gives me a lot more space where I can add things and put things where it doesn't make the whole table look so messy and crowded. But this thing right here for me has been a lifesaver. It just looks so much cleaner than if I didn't have it, so I'm very glad that I made this, even though it was like a 5-second build. The second thing that I point out to mention is this overhead railing arm. Now, if you look at it, it just looks like a piece of wood on top of here, but this is literally a steady arm. That's all it is. It's a steady what is it? Not a gimbal. God, I suck with the terms. But it's literally a steady cam. It's Steadicam. I have the weights up here, and you put the weights in there, and you'll be able to use this instead of using a gimbal. But because I have a gimbal and I mostly use that when I'm out, I built this little railing system right here. So if I were to have another camera on here and I wanted a top-down shot just of this area right here, it's so much easier to do it. Like I said before, because this space is so small, I literally just take that camera, put it here, and then hook it up like this. The weight from the camera will bring the Steadicam down, and basically that would force this part of the Steadicam to pull out and up, and because of that, the weight is gonna balance itself, so I literally don't even have to worry about it. It's no clipping, it's no having to worry if it's gonna fall or not, and all that was just taking these 2x4s, plugging them up against the wall, and then putting one right on top, and it fits perfectly for this. It's literally like, put a camera on here, put something heavy on here, I want a top-down shot, boom, just like that. Pop this out, extend it, and then if I had my camera right here, I can be getting a top-down shot of everything that I'm doing. So it's so quick, so easy. I'm really proud of this one. I don't even know why, you know, I barely use it, but if I wanted to, it's right there so I can use. And the third thing that I did that's like my DIY project is basically like in plain sight. So if you look right here, one thing with this basement space is that we needed to still use this for a basement. Although I do work down here most of the time, we needed to be able to store things, Christmas things, whatever we put down there we don't need. So instead of just adding this green screen or trying to put up an entire wall back here to make it look better, I use these plywood boards. Like if you see behind here, basically this green screen is applied to these plywood boards. So when I do need to get to our stuff in the basement, all I have to do is move the plywood boards out of the way, and then we can get to everything back here. It's the same thing on the other side. If I wanted to move that side, if whatever is back there, we can just move it behind the other side. And because I pre-measured this before I put it up on this board, when I close it and I get whatever I gotta get, boom, the green screen is tight again. So there's no need to like roll it up, and it's not permanently back there. That's the big thing with me when I make things or when I do stuff. Especially if I need to use that space, I don't want to make it permanent. So I make it to where it's still flexible and I can still use it for other things. And the fourth and probably the best thing down here in this studio space is probably my do-it-yourself one-man cam thingy, whatever it is. So basically this thing is constructed out of, you know, cheap plywood and plyboard, and the basic essentials of it is that it is a rolling mechanism that houses most of the things that I would use for bigger commercial videos where I would need to be able to read off a teleprompter, something like that. Now the features that close on here is basically two mic stands that I use right here that clip on the light. So if you see here, this also is just like a do-it-yourself light box, because I'm dark and I need a lot of light, boy, like a lot of light. So this is like a do-it-yourself light box that I made. I also have another one on here, but you can literally just see this is like one of the cheaper light. This is like the first light kit that I bought, and I use this for the studio. I don't really use this anymore when I'm going on location or when I'm doing commercial projects, but we use this right here. I use it just for the studio to light myself. And here I have the Black Magic camera, my big boy, my powerhouse, the camera right here. And basically it's just hooked up to a standing mechanism, which is one of those Z-crane arm thingies. And I have here a glass which acts as a teleprompter. I take my tablet if I'm going to read something off a screen, if I'm talking about a lot of information, I want to sound really smart and not look super dumb, then I put it on there and I can literally just read it as if I'm, you know, talking to the people. And also here we have a field monitor that I have hooked up to a Magic arm, which the HDMI cable routes over to the Magic Cam, so I don't have to look behind the camera every time. Because it's a cinema camera, it doesn't have a pop-out screen. I can just look on the film monitor and see if I'm in focus, to see if, you know, what the composition looks like. So I hope you all enjoyed that tour of my little quaint basement studio. The one thing I wanted to get from this video is basically showing that sometimes you don't really need to have a lot to get a lot done, and that is what I'm doing in my little small space. Later, hopefully, I'll be able to expand this, but until now, you know, this is what we got. You gotta use what you got to get what you want. That's all I got for you guys today. This is Kris with Soldier of Life, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.